Welcome back. This is episode 3 of Rapscast. We're calling this one Terrence Ross is a Chronic Masturbator. Jacoby, what's up?
What's up, man? How you doing? It's been a little while. We haven't seen each other in more than a week this time.
Yeah, it's cold as fuck now.
Oh, it's cold as fuck. You had a good New Year?
Yeah, it was nice.
Okay, sweet. All right,
let's get right in it.
Let's hop in, man.
Okay, so I think the first thing we're going to talk about is the Raptors suck right now. So, you know what? That's a good thing. We need to realize that the team's not a championship team. We've kind of been disillusioned by this.
Yeah, they've been playing over their heads for the beginning of the season.
Yeah, they've been playing over expectations. But now we've come back down to reality. We're going to do the trade machine. What's up?
Well, a lot of people talking about Thaddeus Young coming into Toronto, addressing the needs that they have for an athletic big / wing, which I think Thaddeus Young kind of falls into the category of. I think it would be a pretty good fit. I think the Raptors are really looking for another big, and when I say big, I don't mean like a Tyler Hansbrough 6'8" hustle big. I mean a big guy who's going to play defense, attack the glass really hard, and just be another guy who can take fouls and minutes away from an ailing Amir and JV and the rest of the crew. What do you think about having Thad Young here in TO?
Well, we chose Thad Young because he was talked about in ESPN, and he's a reasonable guy to get. Minnesota is doing way worse than they projected to be. He's not having his best year. He's playing very inconsistently. I think he'd be a great pick for the Raptors. We could probably get him for not very much. We have some assets. We have a few expiring contracts in Amir, in Landry Fields, in Tyler Hansbrough, in Lou Williams, and we have a few late picks this year, next year. So we could get him. What does he add to the team? I think he adds to our small ball lineup. Right now, our small ball unit involves Amir Johnson and Patrick Patterson or Tyler Hansbrough. That's not entirely strong.
With T. Ross at the 3, I think.
Yeah, with T. Ross at the 3. And that's not an entirely strong unit, especially now that more and more teams are doing small ball against us. So playing him at the 4 with maybe Patrick Patterson or Amir, that could be a very quick lineup. They both rebound well, and he adds even more penetration, which is something the Raptors excel at.
A little more speed, a little more flair, a little more, like a bigger threat against defenses, I find. Just a more athletic player, a more put the ball on the floor kind of threatening big like that.
Now, he's been good. He's a good player on paper, but this season we do have to say that he hasn't been entirely consistent. He's not having his best year. I think he'd be a good pickup because I really don't think the Raptors are a title contender this year, right? We're overperforming. We got to think for the long run. And for the long run, he's a good player with some good upside, good value. Especially if we could pawn like Hansbrough and maybe a late pick this year.
If we could give away just Hansbrough and maybe like the Knicks pick.
Well, the Knicks pick is next year. I don't know. I would give up this year's pick.
For Thaddeus Young, you give up this year's first
round
I'll tell
pick? You know what? That's what OKC did to get Waiters. And if you know your pick is going to fall into the 20s, which ours will this year, give it up.
Mm-hmm.
Give it up. Even if it's a good draft year, if it's a late pick, why not?
Improve now.
Improve now. Thad Young is a proven commodity. Our draft pick at like 20, 25 when we're expecting to be, we don't know what it'll be. It probably won't be that good.
All right, and another name in the trade mix for Toronto, yet another big, because clearly that's what we're lacking. Taj Gibson over in Chicago, high energy big. What do you think his fit would be like with the Raptors?
Taj Gibson, I wrote down, I want the guy on the Raptors. He'd be an excellent fit. When I wrote this down, I thought a good trade, both for us and for the Bulls, would be flipping Amir Johnson for him. Now, in a vacuum, this is the dumbest trade ever for the Bulls. Taj Gibson's a better player. But the Bulls have to start thinking that they want to get Jimmy Butler this offseason. And they're stuck on their cap. They have Pau Gasol, Nikola Mirotic, a lot of heavy cap players on their team. They don't have much room. Taj Gibson's on the books for about $10 million a year, a little under, like 8.5.
Is that a max or not quite?
No. He's at about 8.5 or 9.5 this year, next year, and maybe the year after. He's on the books. They need some flexibility. They need Jimmy Butler. So getting rid of him for Amir Johnson isn't that big of a drop-off, and Amir Johnson becomes a free agent this offseason. They get almost the same production from Johnson. Johnson could also be the third big coming off the bench. Right now, they're playing just fine with Mirotic and Pau Gasol. For us, we get Taj Gibson, great defender, great player, pretty much just as good as Amir Johnson or better in every single way. We get a long-term player, they get a short-term player. Win-win.
Yeah, I think Taj Gibson as a Raptor would be great. I think anybody who comes in with the type of energy that Taj does, I think is a big asset for them. I think last year we compared, we said Tyler Hansbrough was like a poor man's Kenneth Faried. I think it's more accurate to say that he's a poor man's Taj Gibson. He comes in with like excellent fire. He just wants to, go as hard as he can and play as hard as he can every single minute that he's out there on the floor. Taj Gibson to me is one of the more underrated big men, at least a power forward in the league. And you talk about the small ball lineup with the Raptors. If we could not give up Amir and have Amir play 5 and him at the 4, that could be a very quick lineup for the Raptors that could combat that small on small type of play very, very with dominance.
Yeah, that's well said. Giving up Hansbrough for him would be a steal for the Raptors. Taj Gibson brings intensive defense. He knows how to shoot the ball more than we've seen, and he doesn't get a lot of opportunities in Chicago. He could come to our team, get a lot more shots, a lot more minutes, and we're gonna have him for 3 years if we get him. That's a steal.
Very smart, coachable player. One of the few glue guys who can actually be a starter and isn't just glue behind the scenes.
He'd be a Dwayne Casey favorite.
There you go. Yeah, well said. Absolutely.
So who's next?
The big man, the huge man, David West, who I think would be a great fit as well. What do you think about that?
I think we have a trend in our picks here. I think we obviously see the power forward as a weak spot.
A glaring need for the Raptors, absolutely.
What does that mean? Does that mean we're having a problem with Amir?
I wouldn't say it's that we're having a problem with Amir. I just think that we can improve as far as the bigs coming off the bench. I think Tyler Hansbrough and Chuck Hayes, as much as we love to see how hard. I know you love Chuck, but the fact of the matter is that the Raptors could get better at that spot. They could get somebody to put in instead of Chuck, who will give us better production than Chuck. So as a Raptors fan looking to try and get better, I see the big, even the 5 maybe, but just the 4 and the 5 for sure. Yeah, the bigs need improvement.
For sure. David West, he'd also be a good guy to get. We try to choose these people based on who's attainable. So David West is playing on the Pacers. They're not doing well this season. We could probably get them if we could flip someone maybe like Hansbrough and another small expiring for him. It'd be a good get, but he's not someone I entirely want, and the reason is he's on contract for this year and next year for about $10 or $12 million each. That's a big cap hit.
He is overpaid, I will say that.
It's not that he's overpaid, but it's that he's on the decline. He's 32 years old, and he's going down.
$12 million.
$12 million. Now, he plays well, but I think we're giving up too much flexibility to get someone who's going on the decline. That would be if we decide to extend Amir Johnson at the end of the year and hand him $10 million, and he deserves that if he was healthy. He 100% deserves that. He'll probably get it. But I wouldn't necessarily just trade for David West, too much long-term contract. But in the short term, he'd be a good low-post defender. He's incredibly intense.
And he's been in the league a long time, knows what it takes to win, and wants to win. You know what I
that's
mean?
A good point.
He'd have a lot to teach the young Raptors.
A lot to teach, and he knows how to win.
Yes, sir.
Very important point.
So of the 3 we just discussed, first of all, who's the most likely to end up on the Raptors? And second of all, in an ideal world, who would be the Raptor?
Okay. Let's start with an ideal world. I'm going Taj Gibson. I think he'd just be a fantastic Raptor. Everything he brings to the team is what we want. He'd be a great fit in Dwayne Casey's system. He'd get a lot of minutes and opportunity in our system. But who's most attainable? Not just who's most attainable on the other side, but who is Masai Ujiri most likely to go for? I would say Thad Young.
Mm-hmm.
Thad Young is a good fit, and teams really try to take advantage of Jonas Valanciunas because he can't run for shit, and go small against us. Thad Young would be a great player in that. Put him in with Patrick Patterson. Thad Young is a penetrator. Patrick Patterson, pick and pop. That's a great combination.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having most of the big men on the Raptors are either like a catch and finish type, sort of off the screen and roll, like Amir Johnson, or they're shooters.
Yeah,
like Patrick Patterson.
He can handle the ball.
He can handle the ball, exactly, and he's a bit of a ISO post player, back to basket, or he has a face-up game.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional big man, which I love to see. I agree. I think Thad Young is the most likely to be on the Raptors, but yeah, and you know what? I also agree with you about Taj Gibson. I think of the 3 players mentioned, the best fit would be Taj. Just somebody who could come in and just grab rebounds, be an aggressive, foul hard when he fouls, like a tough basketball player to play against. Would help him out a lot. And that's who we think would be good fits on the Habs for trades this year.
Let's take a break.
All right.
You said the Habs.
Oh, no. everybody, we encourage you over here at Rapscast to hit up Twitter and vote Kyle Lowry to the NBA All-Star Game by including his name in a tweet, along with the hashtag NBA ballot. And if you need further inspiration or a role model in doing so, you can look to the leader of our nation, Stephen Harper, who he himself backs Kyle very hard with a tweet of his own saying that all of Canada should vote Kyle and get him to the All-Star Game, which I thought was a very sweet gesture that put a very thick, bold underline on the slogan, "We the North." What do you think about that, Kyle?
Yo, Stephen Harper, he's our boy, okay? Kyle Lowry, when you got your Prime Minister giving you the Twitter shutout, you better get in the All-Star Game. That looks bad on Canada. We need him in the All-Star Game starting, okay? If not, that's saying our Prime Minister is nothing. So everybody, just go out and vote for him. Right now, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on Facebook, you can do it on Instagram, Twitter, whatever you have. I have one of those things. You can do it as much times as you want to.
Can you do multiple votes? Is that...
You can do as much as you want.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's a completely biased thing.
Theoretically, I could single-handedly put Kyle Lowry in the All-Star
If you want to vote
game.
like 400,000
If I want to spend every minute of every waking day.
You could do this.
Wow.
If you care that much.
Well, I care quite a bit. I think he really deserves it. I'd be very disappointed if I turned on the All-Star Game and saw it void of Raptors. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I think it's not a question of whether Kyle Lowry will get into the All-Star Game. It's just whether he's a starter. And to a lot of people, they don't think that matters, but it actually does matter to players. A lot of players have in their contracts kickers when they get voted into the All-Star Game.
It's just an accolade. Also, at the end of your career, they list with championships and team accolades. They'll say he was a 3-time All-Star or a 2-time All-Star starter, something like that.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's part of your legacy, very much.
True. But even just from financial, they get kickers in their contract from getting voted because that brings so much more advertising and attention to the Toronto Raptors, both from players in the league and from people around Canada and the United States.
So they have every reason to want to make that starting lineup.
Yeah. So Prime Minister Harper's our boy.
He's our boy. He's supporting our best player. Yeah,
support Kyle Lowry. I think right now he's 4th in voting. And that's behind Kyrie Irving. And Dwayne Wade.
Now,
Dwayne Wade's a great player, but
he doesn't deserve to be there.
Yeah, he has no place in this All-Star Game this year. And not at least not in the starting 5.
I'd agree with that. For sure.
Kyle Lowry's an MVP right now, or not. He's an MVP player, okay?
MVP candidate, for sure.
Yeah. So the next thing about Kyle Lowry is Dwayne Casey actually mentioned in an interview that he was willing to get in a fist fight with any of the coaches that wouldn't vote him in. He's going to kick some coaches' ass.
I was just going to say, Dwayne Casey, if every coach in the NBA got into a giant orgy brawl, Dwayne Casey would come out victorious.
Do you want to see the orgy brawl?
I'd love... Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind seeing what kind of moves these coaches got in the ring. But
Dwayne Casey definitely is going to kick ass.
No, I think Dwayne Casey's the most badass coach in the NBA.
Can anyone beat him? If Phil Jackson was in that fight,
Phil Jackson's a huge guy. But,
he's a huge guy.
Dwayne Casey's got that rough, tough, sort of raspy voice, kind of don't want to mess with this dude type of personality.
Smoked one too many cigarettes.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to fight Dwayne Casey.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to fight with him. No way. So who's he going to fight with?
Well,
I'll tell you right here. I'll tell you who. Lionel Hollins. Okay, that guy coaching the Nets. That motherfucker is not voting Kyle Lowry out of spite. We stole their logo. We said fuck Brooklyn. They're not voting for us.
I would say a coach of one of the players is being voted in before Kyle, like Eric Spoelstra and Dwayne Casey duking it out to make sure their guard makes it to the starting 5. And in my estimation,
no, well, it's not starting 5. It's the bench 5 that the coaches get to vote in.
Oh, pardon me.
So the coaches vote for the bench, and he's saying he'll fight anyone who doesn't vote Lowry. They each get 5 picks.
Lowry deserves it, and I implore any coach in the NBA to step up to Dwayne Casey with your fists up.
I'd love to see Stan Van Gundy.
Oh my gosh.
In like a heated battle. Imagine him in like a wrestler's outfit.
Yeah, well, he looks like a wrestler already. He's halfway there.
He's got the mustache, like the little the Ron Jeremy porn stash.
Yeah, and he's sort of fat and sort of like a gimmicky.
Yeah,
a gimmicky wrestler.
I could see that happen. It'd be a good fight.
I'd take Dwayne. My money's on Casey.
Dwayne Casey's kicking ass every time. Don't fuck with him.
Dwayne Casey, the Iron Mike Tyson of NBA coaches.
Oh, man. Okay, so let's talk about the Detroit Pistons game. Heartbreaker.
Oh man, was it ever? We discussed earlier on this podcast, I think it was episode 2, where we talked about Kyle Lowry's struggles guarding the quickest guys in the league. Last night, that was very much on display. Brandon Jennings was just running amok all over Kyle, taking him into the paint on almost every single possession. If he wasn't shooting it, he was passing it, and he was really when he had the ball in his hands, was really quite the difference maker for Detroit last night, who's been on a crazy streak as of late.
Yeah, the Raptors suck right now, and as much to Kyle Lowry, we can't blame him. I mean, Brandon Jennings, he's a fast point guard. Lowry has trouble against him, but on top of that, Lowry's been playing around 36 minutes every night for about 5 weeks already. The guy's tired, and that's okay. I don't expect him to be full-fledged right now. He's waiting. He's getting teased by DeMar DeRozan. DeMar, I'm coming in every game. He's not coming in. Give him like 2 more weeks. He's tired. He needs a nap.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, he was asked to, I think, pick up for most of the slack left behind by DeMar's absence. I think fell on Kyle Lowry's shoulders, appropriately so.
And for a long time, he did a good job at it.
Yes, of course, but he's human.
Yeah, but we have to realize that the Raptors aren't as good on paper as we've seen. They've been overplaying for a long time. This isn't the Cleveland Cavaliers. They don't have a big 3. We put all the pressure on one guy. And we got to think that when Kyle Lowry's out, when you go play a basketball game and you say, I'm going to play LeBron James and the Cavaliers, I'm going to play Kyle Lowry and the Raptors. If Kyle Lowry wasn't there right now, who are you going to say? We're going to face Jonas Valanciunas' Toronto Raptors.
James Johnson's Raptors.
Yeah, so that's, they're all good players. James Johnson is a great player, JV's a great player, but they're not of that caliber. So the fact that we've been having, I was hoping for a 500 record with DeMar gone. The fact that we've been doing better than that is just astounding.
I would agree, but you know what? I think the Raptors would be worse off with only Kyle out. Like, if at some point this year Kyle has to sit out for, a month or so, or maybe a bit less, due to, like, any kind of, just getting banged up in any trivial way, I think the Raptors, right then and there in that stretch, will really find out a lot about themselves and what they'll need to do to win, because...
That's true. Maybe we'll see Greaves Vasquez step up.
Yeah, maybe. But, I mean, I think that speaks even further to Kyle's MVP candidacy. Like, if you talk about value to a team, the Raptors without Kyle Lowry are just... Like,
nothing.
They're not even in the top half of the East, I wouldn't even think.
No, they're not in the playoffs.
Not a playoff team.
Not a playoff team. They need him as a leader, both on and off the court. DeMar DeRozan can't pull the team the way that Kyle Lowry can.
Right.
But let's talk about the game specifically. So we saw Kyle Lowry had a bit of an off game. He played more of a facilitator. He really couldn't take the game the way he normally does, just control the game like a quarterback almost. But we did see JV have probably his best game this season, maybe his best game as a professional.
Since I've been watching him, his best game for sure. I'm very critical on big men. I think a lot of big men kind of shoot themselves in the foot with their shot selection and a lot of things like, poor decision making and a lot of mental parts of the game. JV last night looked about as good as I think he's going to get in his whole career. He went 14 for 15 shooting the ball. He missed one shot in the entire game and finished with 31 points, which is spectacular. He was going up against 2 huge bigs who were tasked with stopping him all night long, and I thought he just had his way with them. Powerful, decisive, just looked like a really effective minute-eating big out there, and it was great to see.
I love to see JV because he goes out there with a grudge, and you could see it on his face. You could see it in the way he plays every single game. You could tell going into this game, he wanted Andre Drummond done with. He got all the offensive boards. I think he had 6 offensive boards in one quarter.
Jeez.
The only downside of his game, and it wasn't even him, it was the refs calling. He would have been out there for more minutes. He had about 4 fouls early in the game, maybe by the third quarter, and that wasn't even his fault. There were a lot of questionable calls being called in that game.
He would have had like 40 or 50, Kyle.
It'd be a nuts game.
Yeah, if he didn't foul, which it's kind of hard not to when you're like the toughest guy out there like him. Oftentimes you get like a little bump and you'll send the guy flying. He goes, "Oh!" and the ref has to blow the whistle. So
yeah, but a lot of late calls in the game. I was screaming at the TV. That was one of those games.
One of those games.
Yeah, but I would say, and this is probably the most. I think JV watches our podcast, and I'll tell you why. We've been talking about how JV, he is just like a black hole. You give him the ball, he's going to shoot it. What did I say last time? If I'm on an NBA team and I see JV get the ball, I'm running double team just because I know it's an easy steal. What did he do last game?
Well, he only finished with 2 assists, but he was definitely looking to pass the ball at a more efficient rate than he had before, kicking it out on 2 occasions for threes to T. Ross, of all people. And I think that's very important in his development. We've talked about this before, but I think for a big man, in order for him to be in order for him to kill teams at peak efficiency, he has to be able to pass it out of a double team. First of all, you have to command a double team when you're in the post. It has to be an auto double for the team you're playing against. And once that happens, your ability to pass it, to kick it out to the corner or up top or to a cutter, whoever, passing the ball as a big man, I think, is very important. And if JV wants to be in the elite category, he's going to have to learn to pass the ball a bit better.
Well, I think he did a great job of that in the Detroit game. I think that was one of the first times I've seen him pass the ball. I don't think I've ever seen the shot leave his hands and go anywhere other than the net. And the fact that he got 2 assists, like one time, I think I was telling you earlier, one time's an accident. He did it twice. 2 assists. 2 3-point assists from Terros.
So at least one wasn't an accident.
Yeah, it means he was doing it intentionally. He's like, watch this, I'm going to send the ball the other way.
And it was a beautiful pass too. I got it on on the left block and had like a little no-look, one-handed dump off to T. Ross. Yeah,
right to him, 3-pointer. It was beautiful.
It was.
He looked elite in that moment.
In that moment.
Yeah. In that game, he was great.
He was, and that very much was a flash of brilliance for sure.
Yeah. This is obviously not what we should expect from him, but is this a part of what we might see down the road? I don't expect him to be a 30-12 player, but could we expect him maybe in 2 years to be like an 18-11 player?
Maybe even more than 18.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, I'm very impressed. First of all, he's huge.
He's huge.
Like a massive NBA player, like one of the biggest guys on the floor almost every single night. So that's obviously very useful. And his skill sets since coming into the league, just his hooks over both shoulders, spinning both ways, his skill set has really, really improved. You can tell that he takes well to the coaching and he cares about how effective and how good he really is, which I think is really important. And if he keeps to grow at this rate, I mean, playing with the kind of players he is, with the kind of coaching he has, I think that in his prime, I can see JV being like a 20-10, a pretty consistent 20-10 guy.
A difference maker.
Yes, absolutely.
For the Raptors?
I hope so.
Cross their fingers?
Absolutely, yes. I think they'd be getting rid of something quite special if they would part ways with JV.
Yeah.
One of the more promising young bigs in the NBA right now.
Yeah, I think he's going to be an impact player. I think he pretty much already is an impact player. I don't think he'll ever be a great difference maker defensively, though. I think that's where the biggest question marks are right now.
In terms of his physicality or mentally? Or both?
I guess a bit of both. Right now, he's just not a presence on the inside defensively, and I don't see him becoming one. And it could be because of the language barrier. I don't know. Maybe he's just not getting it. What I do see is, from that game, he's looking to pass more, and I think that's one of the most important things he could do. Because if he could pass, that means he's not going to command the double team very much. If a second guy comes up to him and he does the right thing, that's great. He's going to get 2... Well, not him. He'll get an assist, but 2 or 3 points will be scored every time. That's what's going to bring him to become a great player.
Yeah.
Another thing he needs to do is just stop the shot fake. I couldn't believe he scored that one. I couldn't believe he did a pump fake and Andre Drummond jumped from nowhere to try to. He fell for it.
Yes, he
What
did.
an idiot.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Every time he faces up, he goes with at least one shot fake, and he rarely ever shoots that jump shot ever. So I don't know why anyone bites.
Right near the post. And if you're guarding JV, and even if you're far away, if you jump for that pump fake, you didn't read the scouting report.
Just let him have it, man.
You just didn't read the scouting report. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're a professional basketball player. Why are you falling for this? It's the worst pump fake I've ever seen in the league.
It moves so slowly.
It moves so slowly. You know it's going nowhere.
I'm with that, Kyle. I'm with that.
Let's take a break. I'm pissed off.
Alrighty. Back from the break, we are in to discuss what's been ailing the Raptors most significantly in the past 10 or so games, maybe a little bit more than that. DeMar DeRozan out with a groin injury, really forcing the Raptors to look for production from other key people. Kyle, talk about how the Raptors have done in your estimation without their best or second best player, depending on how you look at it.
Man, we suck right now. But I like it. It's back to classic Raptors basketball. If you don't know when the Raptors sucked, you don't know the Raptors. Okay? But in all reality, I think it's good that we're not playing up to where you need to lose a few games, not only to get better and get some good clips for the teaching reel, but also just to get a realistic assessment.
Just to know where you're at.
Just to know where you're at. I mean, you got to get a realistic assessment of where your team is. And this is really showing us that we're not a championship team. And maybe 3 weeks ago, in the back of our minds, I think we both kind of thought, oh, maybe we'll get to the finals. And
I thought they'd get definitely to the conference finals.
yeah, that's what I mean. But now we're questioning that, and it's good we're questioning that. I mean, our team on paper isn't all that yet. We're not a best team in the league like our record suggested. Right now we're third. I think that's a good reflection on how our team is. I think we overperformed for a large part of the season. But right now we suck. And that sucks, but it's all right to watch.
Do you think part of the Raptors' suckage, do you think it was more temporary and that DeMar's, being out of it had a huge effect on that? Like, do you think we're going to suck as bad as we did during the streak, basically? Is that what the Raptors are really? Or were we playing, under capability during then as opposed to, better than we could on paper beforehand, like you say?
Well, I think we're not losing out of flukes. There are times where your team isn't shooting well, or just things that are up to chance. Refs aren't going your way, stuff like that. I think we're not playing a complete game of basketball. We're not playing defense, and we don't have the intensity we once had. And part of that is DeMar being gone. I mean, DeMar is an excellent player, and we really forget how good he is and how much he brings to the team. Because even before he got hurt, he had a few games where he scored a lot of points, but he wasn't very efficient. But even when he's not scoring so much, or he's not scoring so efficiently, the attention he takes from opposing defenders, from players like Terrence Ross, who sees much cleaner looks when he's on the floor, that's a huge part of the game. So we've overperformed while he's gone. But he's been gone for a long time. Kyle Lowry's getting tired. All the players are getting tired. I mean, what we should be talking about is also players haven't stepped up as much as we would have liked them. We've seen games where a few players have stepped up. Nothing really consistent. But the team's getting tired. We're not playing with intensity. We're not playing with heart. We're not playing Raptors basketball right now. And that's the core of the problem.
DeMar, before going down, I think was averaging somewhere between 30 and 35 minutes a game.
Not this season. This season he played a career low. Not a career low, sorry. Lower than last season.
Lower than usually.
Yeah, last year he played around 36 minutes.
I'm assuming he's still in the high 20s at least.
Oh, no. This year he was playing 32.
32. Okay, that's what I said. I said 30 to 35.
Yeah. No, but
still,
he's playing a regular amount of minutes, which is good. But thank you, Lou Williams.
Still, when you take a great player who's playing 32 minutes worth out of your lineup, those 32 minutes got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, Lou Williams, he's dropping the points. He's expected to, but really, the team hasn't been stepping up as of late, and I would say a big part of that is defensive intensity. We're seeing a lot of points scored inside the paint. We're seeing Kyle Lowry get beat, and a lot of that, a lot of that isn't just intensity. A lot of that is we're getting figured out. Teams have game plan for us. They've seen what we do, and a lot of that does fall on Dwayne Casey. What do you think?
I think almost all of it falls on Dwayne Casey. Of course, Kyle's tired, like we discussed, and Kyle, it's very important to have a point guard that can stop opposing point guards in today's NBA, because a lot of teams rely on their point guards to get things going for their entire offense. So, I'd agree. The Raptors definitely are sucking as of late, and the defense is the reason why. I chalked it up to a little bit of Casey, and a little bit of, just the mindset's got to be there, man. I just don't see the intensity. I don't see the want to be a sick defensive team
and
like they were earlier
on Casey.
in the season.
That is Dwayne Casey's job.
Right.
If it comes down to one thing, what is your job? It's to get the players to play the best that they can.
They have to want to play well.
They have to want to play for him. They have to want to play for him well. And he's done that for a good part of the season. And I love Dwayne Casey. Don't fire him. Keep him for the quotes at the very least. The guy is just a soundbite waiting to happen.
Yes, sir.
But his downside, and again, love the guy, but he's really stubborn. When he likes you, he likes you. Even if you're not a good player. Think Alan Anderson 2 years ago. Not a good player. Guy played 30 minutes a night, doing terrible stuff. But if he likes you, he likes you. You're getting minutes. He doesn't like you. Sorry, Jonas. You're not playing, and that's how it is. He's really stubborn. That's how it is. And I think it's up to him to start changing, because teams have figured him out. They figured out the plays he's going to call, what he's going to do, when he's going to do it. He's still great at calling timeouts at the right time, but he needs to change up the playbook a little. I've seen Lou Williams, okay, this is an exception, but Lou Williams, I've seen the same plays happen for him every single time. A little shake, go left, take a pull-up, hope for the foul, hope it goes in, hope for the best. Teams have figured that out. He's not scoring clutch baskets anymore. Now, that is there is a bit of an outlier in that Detroit game. He exposed Jody Meeks a few times.
Oh, yeah.
But for the large part, teams have figured out what we're trying to do. We're trying to funnel them into the center on the defense, take charges. We're trying to play the horns on the offense, and they know what to do. They know to leave Lou Williams alone, don't foul him. They know what to do with Kyle Lowry, so he has to change it up. It's all on Dwayne Casey right now.
And no coach is perfect, but let me ask you, Kyle, if you're Coach Casey right now, which I know you're not, but
I'm not Dwayne Casey. I'd like to be Dwayne Casey.
If you were coaching the Raptors right now, what would be your solution to shake things up a bit, to give teams that are playing against the Raptors a fresh look, to have to adapt to a new kind of, just stop something else? What would you change up? The first thing you would change if you had a chance.
That's putting me on the spot. Wow, that's a tough one. This is what I'd do. In coaches, I really like, and I'm going to say Brad Stevens of the Celtics. I really like him as a coach because he's a really good teacher. And what I see Brad Stevens do a lot is he takes the extra time, even if they're going to lose a game in like 10 seconds left, he'll still call a timeout and run a play off the timeout to teach his players. So that's one thing. But more importantly is run set plays on, don't just play street ball. Don't just give the ball to Lou Williams and say, do your thing, Lou. We'll run an ISO play for you. No more ISO ball. I want to see passing. I want to see passing like the Atlanta Hawks. Man, the Atlanta Hawks. Love them. But I want to see a lot of ball movement. I want to see set plays. I want to see when we come out of a timeout, like on the Detroit Pistons game at the fourth quarter, I don't want to just see an inbound, okay, let the defense set, let us set, now we'll run our horns again. I want to see a set play coming from that timeout. That's how we're going to win basketball games. You can't just play street ball. You can't just play your half-court horn set. You can't just let them
less
set your
dribbling.
Defense. Yeah, less dribbling, more decisiveness, and set plays.
I personally, what I would like to focus on, a lot of times, the Raptors are jacking up. I mean, granted, sometimes they are open, but a lot of threes, and you look at the shot clock and there's like 18 seconds left. You have to play inside out on offense, which is something I saw the Raptors really get away from against Detroit. They bullied them in the first quarter and the second quarter using JV, just getting into the paint and, having layups go in, getting to the line. And as soon as Detroit decided to be a little tougher and a little more physical, they immediately got intimidated and started shooting like mid-range and threes and just jacking up a lot of high-arc shots, which I just thought, they just got to get back to the high percentage plays like they were doing in the early quarters, really dominating play. I mean, you have JV. Just give him the ball more and deeper into the game.
Yeah, JV's got to get more touches. We've seen good things when he gets touches. We've seen good things when he's in the game. He's still young. He's still learning. He needs to get more touches.
And quit relying on the stupid jump shot all the time.
And
jump shots,
fuck his pump fake.
But you're not going to miss a dunk.
Yeah, you're not going to miss a dunk. Terrence Ross needs to dunk more. That's another thing. But you were talking about the high-low game, and the high-low game is really important. The only thing about the high-low game is Jonas Valanciunas is not traditionally a good passer. If he could pass the ball, we have great personnel. We have people who could shoot, people who could drive, people who could move. We have smart players, people who know how to rotate. We have the personnel for it. We just need the low-post people. We have Amir. He's a great passer. We have James Johnson, who's probably the best entry post passer on our team. One of the best entry post passers that I see regularly.
One of the most skilled players on the Raptors right now.
We just need JV to be a bit of a smarter player if we want to go from that perspective. But I think that's a good idea. That's a style of basketball that suits our personnel. Let's also talk about T. Ross. T. Ross hasn't stepped up during this break.
No, you know something? Not only during this break, but from last year to this year, I haven't seen much improvement in his game. He relies on really two main ways to fill it up, okay? He'll catch and shoot a wide open three.
And he's good.
Which he can do from deep. He can catch and shoot.
That.
He can shoot it off the dribble. The long range jump shot is a friend of Terrence Ross's. Mm-hmm. So it's that, and also when the Raptors get out and run. When the other team misses a shot, or when they turn the ball over and the Raptors get out and run, Terrence Ross, being a very naturally gifted sprinter and jumper like he is, often finishes off the break for the Raptors. But, I mean, if he's not shooting a three and not, throwing down a lob on a fast break, I find that Terrence Ross's game right now is very limited. Not a great penetrator, not a great half-court thinker with the ball in his hands or with the ball out of his hands.
Yeah, we haven't seen him step up since DeMar left. Now, part of that is a bit of a change in role. So you mentioned that he's great in the transition on the leak-out. And we haven't seen that. I mean, that's partially due to Dwayne Casey. We've seen his rebounding numbers go up because he's not leaking out anymore. He's going back for the rebound like DeMar would do. But, as you mentioned, he's really indecisive with the ball. And that's the problem. He goes in, and we know the guy could jump right out of the gym. We know he could dunk right over a guy like Andre Drummond, but he doesn't. He goes in, uses his speed, and you think, oh my god, this is the Sprite slam dunk right here. Gives a soft layup. It's soft. That's what it is. It's soft play, and he doesn't have the mental toughness that we'd like to see.
In that regard, he actually kind of reminds me of DeMar DeRozan a couple of years ago. Let's
hope he reminds you of DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, hopefully he can progress in the same fashion that DeMar did, but I think that's asking for a lot. But I digress. Anyway, he was a lot like DeMar DeRozan in the sense that DeMar didn't always used to look to create contact. A lot of the guards in the NBA, what they do is they go up and they'll hit the big man first. And that way he has a harder time jumping, he has a harder time getting his hand up to block your shot. You have to be the guy who hits the other guy, and not vice versa. Right now, Terrence Ross is still in that sort of acrobatic phase where the guy hits him first and then he tries to like contort his body and throw up a very spectacular looking layup, which is not an efficient way to go about being an NBA 2 guard.
But here's the thing. So we compared him to DeMar DeRozan. And, you know, if we were just based on potential, like when they were both the same age, we'd say, oh, Terrence Ross has maybe even more potential because he could shoot better. But here's the difference. DeMar DeRozan, first of all, has always been the guy who goes and he'll finish with the slam. He's the high-flying player. He'll slam it over you, get the foul, always. Terrence Ross isn't. But then another thing is that DeMar DeRozan, if there is one thing that he is known for, it's his hard work ethic. And DeMar DeRozan was a great pick because he works so hard at his game. He may not be the best player every time, but he outworks every single person. And Terrence Ross isn't that guy. Terrence Ross...
What kind of guy is Terrence Ross, Kyle?
Terrence Ross is the guy who masturbates too much. He's the guy who you go to a bar with and you don't want to shake his hand. Okay, that's who Terrence Ross is to me. You know, he doesn't seem like he practices nearly as hard as a guy like DeMar DeRozan, or nearly as hard as a guy who wants to be an NBA great. You know, the guy, following him on Instagram, all he does is post pictures of himself. He plays Xbox a lot, and you know, that's cool. I mean, the guy's like our age right now, and I like Xbox. NBA 2K is a good game. But
we're not getting paid, you know, $500,000 a year.
If you're in the game, you should probably be playing real basketball.
NBA
2K is for the have-nots, okay?
Those who can't do play.
That's exactly it.
I hear you.
You know, he has to do the real-life stuff, so he should probably be working on his game a bit. But the funniest part about T. Ross...
You're not the only one who thinks that about T. Ross.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. Is, you know, he is a man of the people. So... Someone actually on Instagram, a guy who goes by the name of Chai Poppy, and that's an allusion to Drake, who on Instagram goes as Champagne Poppy, commented on his Instagram a picture of a selfie of Terrence Ross saying, "Terrence Ross, you're so thirsty, you gotta practice on your game, all you do is like bitches, go work on your game." So Terrence Ross, you know, he's a man of the people. He responded to
He really let him have it, didn't he?
Yeah, what did he say?
He said, "Go eat a dick."
Eat a dick, motherfucker.
Shy Poppy, whoever you are.
Yeah. And then we got James Johnson. You know, he's a teammate. This guy's a teammate first, okay?
He's also not afraid to say what is on his mind.
Yeah, he's got a neck tattoo. That's how you know.
Crazy.
This happened last week. It's crazy. And then the first thing that happens is James Johnson just responds to this, and you know what he says? He says, "Eat a bag of dicks, fuck boy. A bag of them. Fuck boy."
I would love having James Johnson on my team. I'd feel much safer at night knowing my neck tattooed 6'9" buddy.
That's true. You gotta fight James Johnson. James Johnson is a black belt.
In what martial art?
I have no idea. But he is a black belt of something that will kick our asses.
That's a good
question. We should probably not insult him.
Yes.
He's definitely listening to this podcast. 100%. He's 100% listening to our podcast.
Just like JV last week.
What's the point of this, the Instagram? I think, you know what, Terrence Ross, don't go say this to the fans. The fans right. Dude, you're thirsty. You're too horny on Instagram. Stop liking all the girls. Stop playing NBA. Go work on your actual NBA.
So you agree with Shy Poppy that T. Ross should focus a little more on what he really does for a living?
Unfortunately, I never want to agree with a guy named Shy Poppy.
But you just got to.
But I do.
Do you think that's going to happen for Ross? Do you think his focus will get, he'll focus up a little more? Or do you think he's bound for a long career of NBA 2K?
Oh, he's an NBA 2K veteran. But Terrence Ross is going to have a long career. I mean, his potential's too high, and he's not a terrible worker. We're exaggerating a little bit. He did work with DeMar DeRozan in the offseason, and DeMar is just the most intense offseason person. Probably
on the team.
On the team, maybe even in the league. But that was more out of DeMar DeRozan reaching out to Terrence Ross saying, "Yo, don't stop fucking masturbating. Come, I'll work out with you in Impact."
Lisa Ann needs a break, T. Ross.
Yeah, Lisa Ann. Yeah, I think when Terrence Ross gets on the court, he
really is a chronic masturbator, isn't he? Holy cow! I just put two and two together there.
Yeah, I think he just. That's why we named this our episode.
Yeah,
this was going on in my head.
I hear you.
I think he just, he's thinking about Lisa Ann a little too much when he gets on the court. He's like, "Oh, I'll hit this three, she'll see." Yeah.
That's it for episode 3. Thanks again to all our listeners. We hope to have this up by Friday of this week. Look for Rapscast every single Friday. New episodes, rapscast.com.
Episode 3 was a good one.
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing you next week, Kyle.
Good stuff.